it's not a waste of time. I feel like every date, even if they're not the one,
girl,
you
I
gotta
don't know. I don't know.
You're learning something about it. You're learning more what you want. When you get that person, you'll appreciate
Or
them.
what you don't
have more
want.
stories to be like, I went on a date with this guy and it sucked. This happened over here. Like, it makes for funny stories. Whatever you attract, like, you're attracting that. Whoever you're dating and what you're doing, somehow you're lining up with that person for a reason. Whether it works out and it's another date, you got to realize you brought them into your situation somehow.
Totally.
This is Relatable, Relationships Unfiltered.
Hey, welcome to Relatable, Relationships Unfiltered. Today I'm hanging out with Amanda Lynn, realtor at the agency and all-around badass. She's a strong, independent woman who knows exactly what she wants and has endless options, yet somehow she's still so relatable. I'm excited to have you here. So a big part of what I wanted to talk about, so we became friends through Instagram. We've been following each other's content and lots of similarities. And when it comes to like drive and our passion for what we do. And so part of why I'd reached out to you is because I run into, like, as a very driven woman, difficulties with dating. So difficulties with finding, we're talking very like, typical male female type dynamic here with this conversation, but yes. I've run into a lot of those dilemmas because of my hustle and my lifestyle, finding a man who can keep up with that. And so when we connected on Instagram, I'm like, I know she's going to get this. Like, I guarantee you she deals with the same thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Tell me a little bit about like you're currently single.
Yes.
Okay. And has that been for like a short period of time, long period of time?
Well, I would say technically single since, what was it, the summertime? I would say like May, June, like somewhere around those lines. I had a boyfriend for a few months and we were friends for a few years. But before that, I've been in and out of like the relationships, a 5-year relationship off and on with someone, and then a 4-year relationship. Because I have like attachment issues. So sometimes I've been learning, from my childhood, how to like let go of people. And for me, my biggest lessons come from my relationships for some reason, like good and bad. I turn my lessons into my blessings. So I find that to be like amazing because I just learned so much through my relationships. And no matter who you are, dating is hard. But when you add the element of like, having a lot of drive and working a lot, which means like you might not have all the time in the world to give to someone else. Like I can't cater to you. You have to kind of be on my level. And the last relationship that I was in, he was very talented, but I just felt like he didn't have the drive that I had. And I feel like that really slowed me down. All the other people I've dated before that were always very driven. And I feel like that you need that when you're like a powerful woman like us, we have big goals. We want to be with someone that's going to be able to like handle us, but also be the man and take the lead too. Cause we don't want to be in control of everything. At least I don't.
Yeah, nor do I. And that is something I talk about, something I always say, like that I identify as a feminist. I'm sure you can relate to that. But I think that a feminist in the way that it is modern day probably would not be a huge fan of mine, because that is like, at the end of the day, I want a man who is assertive and who takes care of things and who takes care of me. And that, there's a lot of controversy around that, like modern day right now, of if you're a strong, independent woman, then you shouldn't need a man. Okay, but maybe I want one, maybe I want to be taken care of.
Yeah, to me, it's not even about like want versus need. Like we all want human interaction with someone. We all want to be loved. And when we're loving, we're sharing the best that life has to offer, like our best selves. And we're so happy. Love is what it's all about in the end of the day. That's how we come into the world. Hopefully, we're creators. I'm just saying, not everyone, but it's like love is powerful. You know what I mean? So we want to share that with someone, but also in a healthy way. Like when you work a lot, at least I've learned over time, I have to be protective of my energy. I have meetings and calls and things scheduled back to back all throughout the day. If I have a relationship or anyone, a friendship that's toxic or that can throw a wrench in my day, even though of course we always have bad days because life happens, I have to be in control of that. Like I have to pick and choose what I deal with at certain times because I can't risk my whole day getting ruined and like, disappointing all the people that I'm working with. So it's just a lot more that goes into it that I've realized as I've kind of matured and started my career and became much more structured in how I do everything and knowing exactly what I want. Right. Which I feel like you can have it all. Why do you have, if you're a driven woman or man, or even if you don't care if you're not super driven, but you want to be successful in a comfortable life and not work 24/7, you still want to share it with someone and be happy. You don't want to be like stressed out,
Right. Yeah. The connection is still important. With this relationship that ended for you with the person who wasn't as driven, did it end because of that? Like, because he didn't understand your lifestyle, or he gave you shit about it?
We're just not compatible, and not to say it in a bad way. He's very smart and we were great friends, and it was like a friendship that kind of turned into more. But at the end of the day, we want very different things. And I just kind of feel like he didn't get me. Like, I think he looked at me like not to say he's not successful, but he doesn't have a lot of money. Like, I had to pay for everything that we did, everything we ate, everything we did, which I didn't mind that. But at a certain point, like, I want to be, I shouldn't have to do all the work. Like, I'm a powerful woman. Why should I have to take care of someone else all the time? Get dressed up, take me out to dinner. We go on a
you have to pay.
Yeah, like I would, which I don't care because I take my friends out, I take my family out. I feed strangers on the street. Like, that's just my character. So I don't care about that at all. But at the same time, like, if you're just not compatible and you don't see eye to eye on where you're going in life and what you want to do, I feel like he would look at me and my career and look at it as if like, you have to cater to the 1%, as if it was like a bad thing. Like, you have to put up with whatever people want. He looked kind of, I don't want to say down on it, but it made me feel like he looked down on it. I don't know if it's because he's not doing that, or I don't know. I love my job, so I didn't look at it that way, but our perspectives were not aligned. And I think there's a lot to do with it.
So tell me, like, so I hear that you don't mind paying for things, which I can completely relate with that. Like, I'm work as hard as I do so that I can support myself and my loved ones. And I totally relate to that. But when it comes to like going on a first date, this is something I talk to women empower about quite a bit. How do you handle that first date check? Do you try to pay?
Honey, you got something. Tell me. If I go on a date with you and you don't pay for the check, that will be the last date.
Okay, thank you.
I never went on dates with him. The thing I liked in the beginning is because we were just like friends. That's why I said it was a friendship that we knew each other for years already. He would come to my house. We would hang out and watch movies, go for walks with my dog. We would do things like that. Right. So it was like the normal things that with my past relationships, not all of them, but the one before, like, they were very structured. They're so successful that like I don't want to say this in a bad way, but like, so like your naps are timed. Like with one of my exes, like everything is on a schedule for the most part. So it was nice to be with someone where it's like he wanted to sleep in my house and live my life with me, not me living their life. And when you're with people that are really successful, most of the time you're living their life no matter what, because they have their shit going on. You got to like go to them. It's about them. Mm-hmm. And but there's a part of me that doesn't like that. But then it's kind of like whichever powerful man is going to like demand the most attention and keep up with me when I'm busy is the one that's going to get my attention, because I don't want to be chased, but at the same time, I don't have the time to like baby you. And I don't want to be called a million times a day or, all of that. Yeah. I want consistency, but I don't know. It has to be a good flow. And if
but you want to be pursued, I'm sure. Like
of course.
Yes.
Be the man. Be the man.
Right. I think that is, so when you're talking about being in this, like, that's kind of like the flip side of it. So when you're in relationship with these successful men, do you feel like they don't have enough time for you? Do you find yourself, okay, what is usually the demise of those relationships? Like what usually leads to the end of them?
I think before this last boyfriend that I'm speaking of, the one before that, I think we were together for a long time. So he hasn't changed a lot through the course of the relationship, but I have changed a lot. Okay. I work on myself a lot. I evolve all the time. Like I'm always wanting to learn more about like the spiritual side. And then I'm wanting to grow in my career. I want to grow through therapy and become more knowledgeable. Like I like to evolve and grow. And to me, that's my like biggest commitment. Like I want to reach my ultimate potential. Right. That's my commitment to myself. So I want someone else to kind of lets me do that, lets me be me and understands that. And it's kind of hard. When I'm with the super successful men, I love that because I'm attracted to smarts. If you're not smart and intelligent, like these conversations that we're having, I'm so passionate about people and just having conversations. I heard you say that, I think yesterday in one of your interviews. I watched a little bit of your live with the guy.
Oh, yes.
I just watched like 5 minutes because I knew I was going to chat with you today. And I loved briefly what I heard you, you're like, I'm passionate about these conversations with people. Yeah. And that resonated with me because I'm like, you know what? That's really how I feel. Like I'm passionate about people and I'm passionate about myself and also like pushing others. But I need that. Like, I want to be pushed.
Yeah. The challenge. And that's the struggle that I run into when, maybe somebody is not as driven or not as focused, might even be a different word to use, or so busy, but not really like not moving forward, just like scrambling, but not really making sense of that time. And that is something that I like get frustrated with and I struggle with is like keeping up with me, but then also it's like you're saying, it's the push and pull of it, but I'm really like the intelligent conversation and that drive is such a turn on to me. Like I want to know that somebody can keep up with it. But so that's why I was asking you, what was the demise of it? Because I think it's this push and pull. So like as successful women or driven women, we're attracted to the dominant driven man. But then we run into the situation of them potentially not having enough time for us. But on the flip side, if we date somebody who is not quite to that level, like you're saying, they come across as needy or they have a little too much time on their hand. So it's like, where is the gray area of that? Like, do you struggle to find the in-between?
Or I'll end up where it's like, I've worked on myself a lot to like change. I've been attracted to narcissists in the past from family dynamics. I've learned so much about myself, but I've ended up with men that are like, they communicate less than I do.
Right.
Where it's either one is communicating all the time and I'm being chased, or even if they're not doing like, what are you doing every day? If you're not like running a business and you're just sitting and you're at home all the time, you're not communicating with me, you're not working all the time. So like, then I'll run into that too. Is that the unavailable man that I'm attracting because I'm so busy with my own life? Well, I run into that too. Like, I wonder, like the balance is hard. So,
right. The chicken and the egg.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know for you. How do you feel? Do you like run into men that are unavailable or are they chasing you? Or do you have like a type that keeps happening or?
Yeah, unfortunately I do have a type.
What is it?
The emotionally unavailable. My type is men without time. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I also with my life, the way I grew up, my parents don't call me 24/7. Like I created myself in my life. I did not have parents teach me structure. They did not call and check up on me. Like I'm my own human and I grew up very fast. So I feel like when people call too much and check up too much, I also kind of get irritated by that.
Yeah.
Because I'm not used to that. Like, and I feel like smothered by that. I don't know, which I'm trying not to be, but I've had exes like that too, where I knew they cared about me and they were very consistent. But then when they're too consistent, I'm like, give me a break. Because
on that note, what is your attachment style?
I think I would be avoidant.
Okay.
Because I shut down. When I get overwhelmed too much, I shut down.
And it sounds like you get overwhelmed by people being too, like you're saying, if they're chasing you or they're too much in your business, that's overwhelming to you. And okay.
If it's too, I want like a healthy balance, but I don't want to be too much. And the thing that I find is I'll tell someone what I need. And then they, if I don't talk to you 24/7, it's not personal. I still want to talk every day. I like good morning texts and checking in at night and having conversations. It's not like I never want to speak to you. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just hard to manage. And then I would hear from my ex, like, our problem is your lack of communication. And I'm like, okay, like coming from the guy who takes 6 hours to reply to a text, like how does that make, you're not even doing anything. Like, I don't understand, you know what I mean? So
the lack of self-awareness in relationships, that's something else. And especially for someone like you, who you're in therapy and you do a lot of self-work, that would probably be really hard. Somebody that lacks the self-awareness and they can't identify what behavioral concerns they're bringing to the table. Like, do you feel like that creates conflict or disconnect for you when
I just think that relationships are the best lessons about yourself. I
Yeah.
learn a lot about myself from every relationship, and different people come into your lives at different times to teach you something. Every relationship I've been in has taught me a lot about myself, and I see growth in every different person, every relationship. Everyone brings a different side of you out. They're all
Right.
different.
Well,
That
yeah.
chemistry. I just want to find the right fit. I'm not searching for a man to be with me. I'm very happy with how my life is on my own. But I feel like that's when you find people, when you're happy with your life, that's my top priority. I want to find a guy that matches me on my level. So I don't want to find someone that's going to slow me down or someone that doesn't understand. The successful people that I date will tell me, "You're so smart." They'll hear me speak and they'll be like, "You're so smart." Like, I love that. They give me positive, like, compliments, and I know that they mean it, and I value it because they're successful. Like, I value what they say in their opinion. I want them to be proud of me. When I date someone that's not as successful or not as wealthy or driven or whatever, not to say that they're not a success, but when they're not on a different caliber, they look at it kind of like they're almost insulted by the advice I'm trying to give them. And I don't like that because I feel like I'm not doing that to ever think I'm better. And you don't even have to listen to me. I just love that interaction. I love that conversation. I want to push you. I want to help you. If I have something figured out and I see you struggling, but perspective is everything. So also who you're dating, where they're coming from, they can be insecure about being with a successful woman. I don't know what it is, but I could feel the difference. The wealthy one tells you, "I'm so proud, you're so smart." And the other one is like almost threatened or annoyed by your confidence about what you're doing.
Sure. And I think I've seen that even when it doesn't even come to status. It almost is like mental health or their self-awareness that makes a big difference. Like, I've noticed that distinction for sure, that some men being intimidated by you or even viewing you as competition. And so it's not like, "I'm proud of you." It's trying to figure out how they can either get one up or they can just match that energy or whatever. Like, being told I'm proud of you is like one of my all-time like love languages for sure.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal, that when there's a man that's not intimidated by what we're doing, but rather is like, "I am so proud of what you're doing." That
It's
is such a
everything.
game changer.
It means everything to me to hear that. When you hear stuff like that from someone that you look up to or that you is successful and just that you look up to in any way. I look up to my partners. I look up to my friends. They have something of value or I wouldn't have such a close dynamic relationship with them. So when they say, and especially when they're successful, that means a lot to me because I'm evolving in my own career and my goals. I'm a success in my own right. Like, I feel successful. I feel happy. I feel great every day, but I know I'm not where I want to be at, but I'm on that ride. So like I'm living it, so when you hear something like that from someone that you look up to, it means a lot. And people need to hear those things, not all the time, but they still need to hear it.
Frequently, it would be nice.
Yeah. I'm not a big like words of affirmation person. I don't need to hear it every day. I never heard, all these amazing things growing up about like this and that, but we still all want that. Like, I want to feel, especially with social media, you can be praised from the outside world so much, which I love. And I love that because I feel very connected to like a lot of people online. It's like a family, which I love.
Yeah.
But hearing it from people that really know you and at your core and your heart and like your good and your bad days, it just like hits differently.
For sure. Because social media being so much of just what you're choosing to present versus the people who actually know the good and the bad. How do you date? Like, where do you meet people? Do you use dating apps? Like,
no. Oh my God.
I look on your face.
I don't really care much about dating right now because there's no shortage of men coming after me my whole life. So I don't
go.
I'm not like the one that's like, "I need a boyfriend." Like, they're pursuing me all over. So it's like, because of social media, it's like it never stops. And then they're honking on the street when they see you from the back. Like, men are men, you know what I mean? They see their blonde hair and they're like, honk, honk, So there's
What's it like to be you, Amanda?
Well, I also live in LA, so I don't know. The men, they're out here. So there's no shortage of them like pursuing me, but my focus is my job. And I don't want to be distracted. So if I'm going to meet a man, which great for me, I'm not on dating apps. It's going to either be from social media because that's how you interact with a lot of people, or it'll be from my job, which I would love. I would love to meet someone that's in my world, whether it be like a developer or anyone, a realtor, anything like that, just because they're going to get my pace.
Yeah, for
They're
sure.
gonna understand like everything. So
definitely they get it on a different level. Yeah. I would imagine you probably deal with a lot of DMs. You have quite the social media presence for sure. So how do you handle that? I was just talking to a friend who does reality TV, and he was talking about the DMs that he gets, and we were just talking the other night about how we deal with that. And he's like, "Oh my God, as a woman, like I feel for you." How do you usually ignore them? Do you respond? Like, what do you do with them?
no, I reply to people. I love to I love having conversations with people. So I reply. I don't deal with haters. If someone says something rude to me, I'll just be like, "Are you okay?" That's what I ask. That's my go-to thing. Anyone that asks me, and then they'll either be so excited, like, "Oh my God, you replied," and change their tune, or they'll be like, "I'm good," and they'll insult you again. Then I'm like, "Bye," But I mean, I've met guys through social media, yeah, because they DM. Like the DM is powerful because you're not going, even if you're a celebrity or whoever you are, you're going straight to the person most of the time, not their manager, not their assistant, which you would through email or other things. Yeah. The DMs are powerful. It's a way to get straight to someone. And I've met a lot of really awesome people, not even just men to date, like friends.
For sure.
I've met incredible people through social media. So I reply. I like to be nice. But if someone's trying to pursue me on a date on social media, they got to work for it. I'm a little.
What does that look like?
I'm just a little like preoccupied with my own life, like kind of selfishly right now. So I don't know. Just not.
Yeah. I think that what I like about the social media part of meeting people that way. So dating apps, I
have you tried?
Yes, for the love of God, like they're god awful. I just posted something in my story about like there's no swiping. I don't even know what way is the good way to swipe. That's how bad I am at them. Like there's nothing good on there. But that's the social media aspect of it I like because you get to see each other's personalities, so what you're posting, what you're putting in your stories, like I like people to know how sarcastic and dry I am before I like go sit down with them for a drink or anything, because I'm like, if you can't keep up with that, if you can't keep up with one-liners, like I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
So I think that.
I'm sure you're a fun date for people. I could imagine that because we're both like, strong women got to be fun to hang out with. Like, I love that. I would want to be with like a boss lady and take her out and like have an intelligent conversation instead of just like someone that just like, I don't know. To me, I have to be mentally stimulated. Right. If I'm not, I'm going to walk all over you. It's happened to me a million times. So
sapiosexual. That's what it's all about, is like that intellectual stimulation.
1,000,000%.
But I find that, so like when, sitting down, having a drink with a man or something who doesn't keep up on that level, and that, I think that's a big part of why I avoid dating. So I hear you're saying you're like not even trying to date. And I'm like, okay, I don't know that it's that I'm not trying to, more than I'm like so annoyed by it all. Like it just, the thought of going.
Are you annoyed by thinking about it?
I am so annoyed.
Out of annoyed, because that can't be the energy that you're stuck in. People suck, but
I'm annoyed at how how do I even say it? How boring. I think that's, and especially for you and I and a lot of people listening, when there's very limited number of hours in your day. And we are going from, 5 a.m. to 10 o'clock at night or whatever that looks like. If I'm going to take time out of my day, I want it to be worth it. And so I think that that's what I run into quite a bit. But I think the flip side of that, and I'd be curious your perspective, is that I often use work as like a good excuse to not have to deal with it, because it just is so much work. It's like not good work. It's not a lot of work in a good way. Do you find yourself doing that?
Well, I'll tell you, do you know like what shadow work is? Okay. So a few years ago, I agree with what you're saying. Like sometimes using work as an excuse to not have to deal with stuff. I feel like a few years ago, I don't know, probably maybe 2 years or so ago, I met this guy and he was amazing. He's a big like writer and he's super successful. His sister's like super famous. I'm not going to say who he is, but he was incredible. And like we connected a lot. But at the same time, I just didn't feel like the flow with him. You know what I mean? Like there was just something that was off, and he was consistent. He was amazing, but I don't know. I just felt like it was too, I don't know. I don't know how to explain
like
it.
the chemistry wasn't there.
The chemistry wasn't there, and he was really nice, but there was just like no spark. I don't know if I thought he was too nice. I liked him in the beginning. Things were great in the beginning, but then over time, like something was kind of just lacking a little bit. Like you also want the spark. I want to go on a date with someone. It's not a waste of time. I feel like every date, even if they're not the one,
girl, I don't know.
You're learning something about it. You're learning more what you want. When you get that person, you'll appreciate
or
them.
What you don't.
Have more stories to be like, I went on a date with this guy and it sucked. This happened over here. Like it makes for funny stories. You just gotta like enjoy the ride, I think, a little bit more.
Is this a lecture?
You're in a lecture. No, but once you're in that relationship, like you're in it, and the real work starts when you're in the relationship because you trigger each other. Then you got to grow. Yeah. Like that's a lot. It's a lot to learn about yourself, and whatever you attract, like you're attracting that. Whoever you're dating and what you're doing, somehow you're lining up with that person for a reason. Whether it works out and it's another date, you got to realize you brought them into your situation somehow.
Totally. And that relationship part, I mean, to that point, that is probably the other. So the dating part is a lot of work, but you're right. The relationship part is even that much more work, because when you are being triggered and when your attachment wounds are being activated, that is so hard. It's so hard, especially so as you're describing as an avoidant, so hard not to run, not just to shut it down. How do you find yourself? How do you manage that?
I'll tell you, like, it is hard because from my childhood, I have abandonment issues from both sides of my family, which I've really learned from my last relationship. I feel like I've learned finally at 33, after all the therapy I've done, I've learned to like, I can free myself from attachment, which I think is so amazing. But I can do that mentally, but I've analyzed myself so much. The body still physically goes through like its own process when you're triggered and when you're detaching from someone. So like, in my mind, I can tell myself one thing, but my body, I physically feel my body goes through like a withdrawal of like the people, which I find is so crazy. And that stems from like my childhood. So I learned how to manage that stuff, but that withdrawal part of it is also really hard. So like the avoidant, I'll shut down, and I know how long I shut down for. Like the max will be like 12 hours and then I bounce right back. But that's a long time to be shut down just when you're going through like, you know, attachment issues and problems with relationships. Like it's powerful, and it affects like my mind, my body, and everything. No matter how much therapy I do, you're still going to be triggered. Those don't go away. You just learn how to manage them quicker until like put yourself back in the right headspace. But it's hard.
It is hard. Yeah. You learn how to be more aware of it so you can catch it quicker. You can, like you're saying, you can be aware that it's about to happen. You know what the physiological cues are before you go into that. But it does suck, and it is hard. And the way you're describing like the withdrawal symptoms, that's completely accurate, is what, I mean, the body goes through, because your nervous system gets so activated in those moments, especially when it's reminding you of the way that trauma is stored in the body and in the brain. And when you feel as though you're being abandoned, it takes you back to all of those times that you were abandoned and what that felt like. And so, I mean, it's exactly what you're saying, that even as an adult, and we know like we're fine. We have safe homes. We can take care of ourselves. We'll be fine. Yeah. But that pain, you know, the emotional side of our brain has a hard time seeing that in those moments.
Yeah. I want to go back to one other thing that I just thought about when you mentioned the shadow work. And the reason I started talking about him so much was he was someone that triggered like the shadow work thing in me, because I started thinking, this is an amazing guy. I know I'm in my career. I was just kind of starting out. This is like 2 years ago. But it made me really think, like, how long am I going to be saying that to myself for? Like, what is my excuse to be like, no, I'm in my career now. I'm focused on that. Like, I don't want to be distracted. Well, if you're so focused, then nothing can distract you. That was like an aha moment that I kind of had with myself that made me think like, that's an excuse. It's from the shadow work questions that you ask yourself, the deep ones that no one knows. I really had to analyze myself, because I was like, this is an amazing guy. We do have a good chemistry. Like, it's not the spark that I was searching for, but we have a good chemistry, and he's a really great person. I feel safe. Like, this could be something, but I just kind of wanted that spark. So I started doing the shadow work to try to get to like the bottom of that. And then that's kind of where I found myself. I'm like, well, is this an excuse? Because like, what I'm scared. What am I scared of? That's why I put it off, because I'm scared to be distracted with my job and mess something up. But it's like, I'm going to do this job for the rest of my life. So am I always going to have that excuse? At what point do you just like give in and be vulnerable, you know, kind of like.
Do you feel like if he was the right fit for you, though, it would have been a different, maybe you would have been more willing to?
Of course, if someone's the right fit, I don't push away someone that's the right fit, but I want the spark. I want it all. Yeah. I want to have I want it all.
Chemistry and compatibility. Like
I don't want to do anything average, and I'm very busy. So if I'm not super into you with the spark and all of that things, then why am I wasting my time?
Yeah, totally. When did you start? When did you start therapy? How, like, in adulthood or?
So I did therapy a little bit when I was like a kid, but I don't really know if it did much. It was just like, go to the doctor, you know, I was very like, I have a lot of energy. So they tried to give me like Ritalin and calm me down. I'm like, no, I'm crazy. Like, let me live, you know?
It became your superpower.
Exactly. So I did it a little bit as a kid. And then when I think really dated the first narcissist that I really was with when I was 22, I honestly got to the point where I hated him and I did not want to be with him. Like, I felt like I hated him. I did not enjoy our time together besides like intimate things or, you know, a little bit of affection. And I just like why do I feel stuck? Like, something's wrong with me. I hate this person. But every time he's nice to me again, I just come back. Yeah. Why? I knew something was wrong with me. So I put myself in therapy then, which he knew about, and he didn't like it. So I only went a few times. Sure. But I realized there, like, the lady pulled up a chart and she drew it all out and then was like, it's your mother. Like, your mother, because both my parents were addicts. When you're dealing with an addict, you don't know which of them you're going to get. They're nice, they're hot, they're cold. They wake up the next day, they don't remember what they did. And they come in your room again and act like nothing happened. And as a child, that programs you to just allow them to, whenever they want to be nice, it's just easier to be nice. Yep. But that programs you to attract narcissists as you grow up, because it's like they're hot and cold and you just want it to end. So you just let them back in like family. And that's what I would do. So I started that, and then I only did it a little bit. And then I ended up with a narcissist again.
Oh, wait, but how did you end it with the first one?
Oh my God, we would go back off and on for a few years. The therapy didn't last long, but the relationship would go off and on.
But how did you finally pull the plug?
Yeah, eventually narcissists, they bounce onto someone else, and then
totally. Okay, so then it was just
to this day though, like all my exes, the family loves me, but I'm just like, no, keep them at a distance, friendly distance,
boundaries.
Exactly. But then when I did really intense therapy, which really changed my life, was a few years ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, probably 4 years ago, and I went 3 times a week for like 9 months, and it was and it was expensive. It was a lot of therapy. Like, that therapy costs more than my rent every month.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did you do trauma work during?
It changed my life.
Yeah. Did you do like EMDR, or what were you doing? What modality? Like,
no, I don't even know what I didn't end up going to her anymore. That went on for like 9 months, and then we stopped talking. And then I learned a lot about myself, because even I would withhold things from my therapist because I thought she was going to leave me and wouldn't want me to come to therapy anymore. Like, so I learned that about myself. And when you go for a long time, you learn about yourself, because you're not always going through horrible shit. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes, but that's in those moments you realize more things about yourself when you like stick it out.
Totally.
So that was great. And then now I'm in therapy again. Now I talk to a therapist once a week, and I started talking to her ever since I left my last relationship. Every time I go through a breakup, I get a therapist, basically, because I have the abandonment things start happening. Even if you aren't happy in the relationship and you don't want to be in it, I still have that attachment trauma from my childhood that I have to like try to deal with. And those therapists, they give me the tools that I need. They're like the best thing in the world, in my opinion. I love therapy.
Yeah, sure. And do you feel like you learn something different, like with each therapist? Like,
the last one was dealing with like, the one that I went to for 3 times a week for 9 months, that was more of like childhood trauma, dealing with my mother, dealing with me being attracted to narcissists, getting into my career. Like, I changed my whole life. Yeah. Now it's completely different. Now we talk about like maintaining what I'm doing. She tells me she's proud of me all the time. And like, it's a different kind of therapy, because we're not addressing my childhood issues as much. we're addressing what I'm dealing with in my life now and trying to operate at this high level with my business and all the stuff that comes with that, which can be a lot.
Yeah, a lot for sure. And that when you have an understanding of how your childhood really influences the relational decisions that you make, but also your behaviors in the relationships, that can be so helpful, but again, doesn't always solve the issue. And as a therapist, as a relationship therapist, I still, I deal with a lot of that. And those attachments, so similar, I deal with a lot of abandonment stuff. And my attachment style is much more push and pull. So I vacillate between the anxious and the avoidant, which you can imagine is quite the mindfuck for anyone I'm in relationship with, because it's like just not knowing what I need at any given moment. And as much work as I've done around it, and I continue to do around it, it's in moments when I feel like somebody doesn't care, or I'm not a priority, or they could leave at any moment, it like takes you back to those childhood moments.
Yeah. Triggers you.
Yeah. It's definitely, yeah, for sure. And so I think that's, I try to remind my clients of that like what we were saying earlier, you can do the work and you just learn to manage it. You learn to be more aware of it, and you learn to try to shut it down quicker or repair quicker if you inevitably do something you wish you wouldn't have done when you were triggered.
Once you know yourself better, which therapy is so great at helping you really figure that out, once you're in it for a certain amount of time, it's like working out. If you just go for a little bit, you're not going to get results. I'm sorry. Right. You have to be committed, because changing and rewiring your brain and what you think is so hard. And I am telling you, I can speak from experience, because I've done it. I'm not all the way there. It's a never ending journey and process, but I have rewired a lot of what I've become attracted to and changed my whole life. And I know it's really hard to do. I've messed up a lot, and you have to like forgive yourself, but we all have different issues. Nobody's childhood was perfect. Being in relationships are not perfect. We are struggling. It's just trying to be vulnerable and trying to like not let fear hold you back about your attachment issues and your anxiety. It's all coming from programming that someone else gave us. Totally. Like, I don't want to be controlled by anyone else but myself. So that's why to me, it's so important to like, it's a drug. People to me are a drug. They're my biggest like addiction because of my family. That's never going to change. You just have to know how to manage it. And like really, the last breakup, when I was going through that phase, even though I was not happy in this relationship and I didn't want to be in it. It was just like, it wasn't the right fit for either of us, but I still was having those withdrawals and still feeling horrible. I swear, even though I've done so much therapy, Abraham Hicks, literally within 2 weeks, like completely listening to Abraham Hicks and Esther Hicks, like completely got me to change my mindset, and my whole life changed within 2 weeks.
Wow.
Right? The mindset. That's through that how I learned how to like free myself from attachment, because then I started looking at the contrast, which is like the bad things that happen. I look at them as like rerouting where I'm supposed to go.
Okay. So they're shifting your trajectory, like, okay, this is no longer for you. So this roadblock has to happen in order to change your direction.
Where I want to go. Yeah. And to me, that gave me some ease, because when you have anxiety and you have attachment issues and all these things, it takes over, and it's really hard to manage. But all you can do, which I'm very grateful, I've learned what tools I need to use to help myself when I'm going through hard times, and things like that are part of it. So it's like reminding yourself what you can do from knowing yourself to help, because it suck no matter who you are. You don't have to.
Circle of control is like a huge thing that I try to focus on. I talk to my clients about a lot, like imagining a circle, what's in the middle is what you actually have influence over. And it's so small in comparison to everything else, but we so often find ourselves focusing on everything else, and so then we feel powerless because our focus is on the wrong thing. Whereas, when we shift like, okay, but what do I have influence over in this situation? And when that comes to dating and relationships, I mean, to your earlier point, you are sitting at that table because of whatever reason you attracted them. So if that's not the type of person you want to be sitting with, then what's within your circle of control to shift that? Exactly. And I think that's, as simplistic as it sounds, it's really hard to remind yourself of like, okay, but what do I have influence over in this moment?
Sounds so simple, and it really is so simple. But when you're in that moment and you're pissed off and you're triggered and you're hurt and you're going through whatever, The hardest thing is to remind yourself. But I'm not even kidding you. When you get triggered and you remind yourself right away to do something like that, and it helps so much.
Yeah.
And I can tell I have learned to free myself more from attachment because of this stuff, because of like meditating and I love learning, reading books, anything that will get my mind off it. If you're having negative thoughts, I heard this a few weeks ago, or actually like 2 months ago, from Santiago Ariana, who's like one of the top realtors that I work with in my company.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught like a Think and Grow Rich class because he's very successful and he's incredible. He meditates and he's super smart. And he was just saying, if you have negative thoughts, you're going through something, use affirmations, which are not something that I've used a lot. I'm not a big affirmation person because I visualize, I meditate. That's kind of how I do it. But he was saying, like, just say affirmations, because when you're talking, it blocks out all the negativity. It blocks out the anxiety and all the shit you're thinking about. Take a few deep breaths and start saying positive affirmations and your whole mind will shift. And I was like, we'll see. And I tried that one day when I started having anxiety, and it helped so much. I was like, whoa, like sometimes the simplest things, life is supposed to be simple. It's not supposed to be all so complicated all the time. Simple things go a long way, but we just forget because we're caught up in the phone. And, people take Xanax when they're having anxiety. Don't take a Xanax. Go sit and meditate and try to calm your mind.
And the power of the mindset shift or the affirmations, like you're saying, like really what's happening in the brain is when you shift to think about those things, it's your brain starts to release the serotonin, the dopamine, the endorphins, all of those. So that is really, neurologically, you are really having a shift take place, because when you're focused on the things that are overwhelming or stressing you out or scary, then the brain is releasing the cortisol and the adrenaline, the norepinephrine, all the things you need to fight or flight. So you're right that it really does, even in that moment, take some deep breaths. And this is not at all, like, to put the disclaimer, this is not about like silver lining or toxic positivity or anything like that. It's really about the power of perspective.
Yes. It has helped me so much. So much. And I've done therapy. I've done so many things. I love to evolve, and I'm learning new things all the time. Sometimes I'll read a book that will change a perspective I'd never even heard before, like The Gap and the Gain. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book, but that book is incredible.
What is it?
It's called The Gap and the Gain. Have you ever heard of it?
Tell me about it.
So I have a coach in real estate because I do real estate, and she recommended this book to me. And it's basically about, we all have ideal goals that we set for ourselves. And sometimes we don't reach them. They're like the ideal goal, which is going to be hard, but it gives us drive, somewhere to work towards. But then what we do as humans, as most people, when we don't hit that goal, we beat ourselves up about the fact that we didn't hit it. And then no matter what we've done, we missed the goal. So we like beat ourselves up over that. But that's called living in the gap. If you're in the gain of your life, you measure backwards. So say you set a goal, you didn't hit it. That's fine. What did you hit since you set that goal? You applaud yourself for what you have done. And it literally, the science of like how what you said, it sends positivity and all those things to your brain, which literally it makes you feel better instead of beating yourself up and creating anxiety and going down on yourself like most of us do. You just live in the gain of your life and like just keep reminding yourself, what have you done? And that perspective right there already takes you such a farther way.
Yeah, I love that. And I talk to my clients about that all the time when, they feel like they've hit a plateau or they feel like I'm not making progress. And for us to identify like what changes have made since the day they walked into where they are now, it's so easy to lose sight of that progress because it becomes your new norm. So you're just like, no, this is how it's always been, until you reflect back, as you're saying that so much progress has been made, but it's so easy to focus on what's not been made. I love that. I love that perspective shift for sure.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting.
So before we wrap up, I want to do something with you real quick that I do with a lot of my clients. When it comes to like relationships, I talk to them about their 5 needs, their 5 wants, and their 5 boundaries. So when you think about like that ideal partner, so for you, chemistry and compatibility, well, for you, for me, for probably most people listening, the 5. We'll start with the needs. So the needs are like, these are non-negotiables. They have to exist. The wants are preferences. So as long as the needs are met, these would be nice. And then the boundaries are deal breakers. So let's start with your 5 needs. What does that partner need to have?
They need to be driven.
Okay.
They need to be intelligent because I love intelligence. I'll say my number one thing I'm attracted to with anyone is intelligence, just because that communication, like I'm deep. I like to talk about deep stuff. So intelligence, what was the other one I said? The first one?
Drive.
Intelligence, drive. I want someone I can trust because that's everything.
So you need them to be trustworthy.
I need trustworthy because I need trust
for obvious reasons. Do I need to explain?
For every reason. Like, hello. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to belong to all of this and I can't trust you. Like, goodbye.
Totally.
I've been down that road. It's not fun. It sends you to therapy. So
a lot of it.
I want someone that lets me be me. That's a big part of it. Like the freedom to just like not trying to control every aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And I want someone that makes me laugh. That just enjoys life with me.
Okay.
Simple things. Enjoying life.
Okay. So those things have to exist for anyone to even, so anyone listening, trying to slip into Amanda's DMs, you better listen up here. So then what are the 5 wants? So what are the preferences?
5 wants. I want someone that likes to go out to get dinner with me because going out to eat is my favorite thing to do. Like I just love I love going out to eat. I'm a foodie. I don't care date, night, whatever. I want to go out to eat.
What type of food is your favorite? Like
all foods. I don't care. I don't eat steak or any meat like that. I was very vegan last year, but I love cheese.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to be all the way.
Sure.
But yeah, going out to eat is very important to me.
Okay. So you're a foodie. So someone who can do that with you.
Someone who can do that. Someone that wants to learn, be willing to learn and like grow. You don't have to be on like my journey of evolution, but I want you to be willing to like try my kooky ideas out and stuff like that. That would be fun.
Sure.
I want someone that is like a kid at heart. I think that's very important. They don't have to be that way, but I would love that.
Sure.
Want someone that likes dogs.
Fair.
And if I would want a developer, that would be the last one. If I could pick, I would want a developer, but I don't need that.
Why a developer over a realtor?
Because then we're the perfect team. A realtor is going to be doing what I'm doing. I want the developer is going to, I'm going to have some input. I like to be I like the creative process. So I would love to have someone that kind of like, I could make their life easier by doing like the sale aspect of it and some of the design, which I naturally just love design. And I would learn from them. So to me, a developer or someone, they could be a realtor. They could be in any field. They could do anything. It doesn't have to be that. But if I could pick, I would want that. I don't need it, but I would want it because it seems like a good challenge. It just seems ideally it would be my perfect match.
Okay. Power couple is what that role would put you guys, like you're saying, that perfect partnership. Okay.
I want someone I can help them and they can help me and it goes both ways.
Totally. And that you can both be passionate about that. Like you can understand the same thing that you're both passionate about. Totally get that. Yeah. 5 boundaries. So these are the deal breakers. So like, yes, obviously can't be a narcissist, like for sure. But when you're thinking like more specific, what are some things that like can't exist? Like they can't be shorter than you, or they can't not have a job, or they can't like, what are the deal breakers?
Can't be dumb. Can't be lazy. Can't be lazy.
Fair.
Can't be not willing to change. Like I just want someone that's open to things. Like I can't have someone that's closed off to anything.
Okay. So like closed mindset, limited.
I don't want closed-minded. I just don't want someone that's like stubborn, stuck in their ways, doesn't willing to have conversation or thinks outside the box or let someone tell them something different. I don't want that. Okay. That doesn't go. Did I say 3 things? Yeah.
You said 3. Yeah.
Okay. Do not want someone jealous.
Okay.
I don't like jealous people.
Sure.
You have to be jealous of others. I don't like the jealousy thing. Like there's enough room for everyone to win in the world. I do not want to be with like a jealous man. Like that's just
right.
Weird. And I don't want to be with a guy that's not able to take control. Like I don't want a controlling guy, but I don't want a guy who's scared to take the lead.
Right. So somebody assertive. So you don't want somebody meek or passive.
I don't want like a pushover. I want like a strong man. So I cannot be with someone that's like,
all those needs, wants, and boundaries, like, do you not care much about your sex life? Is that like just...
Oh my God. Well, that's like, yeah, that's very important. We have to be,
that's a given.
That to me is compatibility, because
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, if I'm wanted by I'm not going to say the world, but like, if I can be hit on all day long by a million people on social media, why the hell would I not be with a man that's like all over me? Like, I don't want to be smothered, but I want to feel wanted. And like, intimacy is very important.
For sure.
Important. Connecting in all ways, you know?
Well, and I think, yeah, like you're saying, that intellect being stimulated in that way, like, I think that's what makes for the best sex, right? Is when you are emotionally connected, intellectually, all of that, way more than like a hot shell is not where it's at.
I'm telling you, I've had plenty of hot shells in my time. Plenty of hot shells. And I will promise you, I have learned this. I've even been friends with girls that I thought were the most beautiful women I've ever seen. There's like probably like 4 of them where I'm like, these girls are stunning. Then you get to know them and you can't even see their prettiness anymore, almost. Like, you're just so repulsed. They're such assholes.
Yeah.
Thing.
Totally.
Like, you're not even pretty anymore. And I'm a woman and I'm thinking you're unattractive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, the same thing goes for men. I've been with guys that are models that are super hot, millions of followers, famous people, whatever. Okay. That people would die to be with them. And I'm like, no way. Yeah. Because they don't try. When people are really attractive, they're so used to being pursued 24/7. I'm a little guilty of that.
I was going to say, well, you try.
I have, but I'm deep. If you conversate with me, I'm deep. I'll go anywhere you want to go in the conversation.
Okay, but hold on. So you just said attractive people, though,
they generally
don't have to try. But you're an attractive person and you do. So you're saying the difference is what?
I put effort into everything I'm doing. I don't want to be with someone that just doesn't have a personality because they've never had to use it, because everyone comes after them because of how they look. And that's unfortunately most of the most attractive on the outside people that I've been with are not attractive inside because they can't keep up with me. They don't have a lot of personality. They just think everyone's going to cater to them. And I don't like that. Yeah. I want effort.
Yes. You know what I love about you is, like, not in spite of, but I guess in addition to how beautiful you are and clearly successful, like, you have so much substance. And that is, I mean, total package, Amanda. You are a gem for sure. Where can people find you? Like, social media, online? Where can you be found?
Well, my Instagram, that's probably where they see me the most. I have YouTube and everything else, but if you go to my Instagram, you'll find it there. My name is Miss Lamadou, which is my last name. But if you just type like Miss MISSLH, it will pull me up because I'm verified.
That's right.
Yes. I have another Instagram for real estate, Amanda Lynn Estates, which is like my business. But my main Instagram is Miss Lamadou. So if you click that, you'll see it.
You'll find her. She can easily be found.
You'll find me.
All right, Amanda. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. You're such a fun time.
Thank you so much. I just want to tell you, I loved doing this. I love that it says relatable in the back. You are so relatable because you are a very successful, strong, beautiful woman in your own right. So I told you on the phone, but I was very flattered when you asked me to do this because I was like, oh my God, I love it.
Yes.
She seems to have some depth and she thinks there's going to be value there. So I appreciate you having me on here, and I'm happy to have any conversation with you anytime.
Thank you. Soul sisters. We get it. All right. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again, Amanda, for joining me. And thank you all for hanging out with me today on Relatable Relationships Unfiltered. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and find me on Instagram at Dr. Elizabeth Fedrick.